There is nothing more awkward than doing this opening part by myself. Hi, guys. Welcome to Drinks with Leaders. My bestie, Scott, is doing something very important today. I'm not sure. It was something with work. He sent me a whole monologue on it, and I just know he's not here. And so I'm going to handle this today, but we have two really exciting guests. So you guys are here for them anyways. Welcome to Drinks with Leaders. Let us know. Are you watching on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn? Are you watching live? Or are you watching the replay? It's so fun to see how many people watch live versus the replay. You guys, we are super excited because both of our guests from 2024 decided to, both of our sponsors from 2024 decided to sponsor again this year. So I do want to really, really focus in on our sponsors, Bestway International and Evardy Construction. Both of them have done insane things in the community. In fact, if you remember in November, we did our Giving Tuesday show, and both of them we got to hear from all the nonprofits that they also take a part in, volunteer sponsor as well, and just amazing stories of what they're doing out in the community. So please make sure you go and follow Bestway International, go follow Evardy, go follow their LinkedIn pages, their Facebook pages, their YouTube pages, their Instagram pages, their TikTok now that it's back. You know, I already had a hard time this weekend with that. Go follow all of that and thank them so much for sponsoring Bestway. Last week, you can watch the replay of their live show. So they're doing a live show that is going to keep you very much on top of like tariff talk and what's happening in the freight industry and stuff like that. So go check out their show. They did that last week. They do that once a month, so you can go see what's coming up. But thank you guys for sponsoring. Okay, none of you guys are here for me. Super weird to be talking to myself. So the last thing I'm going to say is that we have some incredible guests today. It's always fun for me because we do everything very organically. So I always jump on and I'm like, who did you know that got you to the show? So I never met either one of our guests today. So I was just really excited because one is actually friends with Scott. And then one I don't think Scott's met yet either, friends with Jessica Powell. So we've got a really incredible show. So let's do this. Let me know if you're watching Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. It looks like Paul is watching him from an industrial meat freezer into which I climbed to get warm. It is freezing. If you are watching in Kansas City today, I woke up and immediately jumped on my phone and it was -8 degrees. I don't think it's much warmer anywhere else. I've been in Atlanta the past 5 days and it was pretty cold there. So if it's cold in Atlanta, I don't think we're in this alone, at least like we were the blizzard. So stay warm. This is the perfect time to just get your heated blanket and watch some live business show, right? All right, let's bring in our guest. I am going to apologize because Scott loves this music, so I keep it, but I should change it when he's not here. That's going to be my goal. So here we go. Never. All right, our first guest today is Will, and we also have Jonathan. You guys have memory. Hi guys, how are you?
Good. How are you, man?
Sick music.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I love that. That's my favorite song.
It's so amazing. Really up my alley. Usually we have 4 people, and then right in the middle we have a 3-minute clock, and you guys are put on the clock. But I'm not going to put you on the clock today. So if you're watching, there's no clock. So we're just going to do this totally organically, guys. We're changing everything up except for the music, which is the one thing I want to change up. So let's jump into this. Will, we're going to have you go first. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Yes, ma'am. Well, hi, Aaron. Nice to meet you virtually. So sad Scott couldn't be here, and I want to give him a big shout out for inviting me. So I'm Will Hawkins. I'm a commercial lender at Sunflower Bank. And what I always say is it's always sunny at Sunflower Bank, but not so much recently outside. So my job's pretty simple. It's to bring in new commercial clients to the bank. I help businesses with their financing needs, and I help them manage their business operating accounts. My target clients are companies with operations in Kansas City or Kansas City-based companies with over $25 million in revenue. And usually my loan sizes are from around $5 million to $25 million. So some examples of that is I do anything from working capital loans, lines of credit, to equipment lending, to acquisition financing, and to owner-occupied real estate loans. So I can help Paul finance his industrial freezer, apparently. But my target industries are manufacturing, family-owned businesses, healthcare, wholesale distribution, technology, and professional services. So you name it. But for how I got here, I grew up in Overland Park, went to Valley Southwest High School here around town, and then I went to Mizzou for college, MIZ. So after graduating from Mizzou in 2020, I moved to Dallas. I worked for a different bank called Intl, Bank of Texas, and I spent 4 years in the private wealth space working with high net worth individuals. And then as it usually goes for how I got back to Kansas City, I moved back for a girl. So my now fiance and I were long distance for those 4 years when I was in Dallas, and we both decided we wanted to be closer to family. Her sister just had triplets, so we have nieces and nephews. And then we, once Rachel, my fiance, graduated from PA school, we decided to move back to Kansas City, and now we're getting married here in August. So that's why we're back, and it was a quick turnaround, but here we go, and it's good to be back in Kansas City.
So she was in Dallas with you?
She was not. We were long distance. She was in Omaha and then Phoenix for a little bit.
Oh, okay. I got confused when you said she moved back to Kansas City. And you're engaged. Do you have a wedding date yet?
Yeah, August 23rd.
Ooh, that's coming up soon.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Paul said you actually work with his son, Will.
Yes, his son works at our Sunflower Bank branch in Lawrence, Kansas.
Okay, so I have a couple questions here. So as of yesterday being inauguration day, a lot of what we've talked about on Drinks with Leaders all last year is election years are always really weird for most businesses. So what did you see happen last year for this amount of time you've been in business, right? And how do you think 2025, like what are you looking forward to now that we're out of all the election talk? We don't have to do that again for 4 years. We're starting a whole new year. What are you kind of looking forward to in your space that you think is going to go, I guess, better than last year or different than last year?
Yeah, for sure. So what happens is there's a lot of uncertainty on election years. So people are always confused and don't know what's going to happen with both rates and legislation. So what happened last year is we found there was a ton of companies that were waiting to see the results on where they'd go forward. So we found that this year, we think it's going to be a big year in mergers and acquisitions activity. So there's going to be a lot of businesses that have been holding off, or there's going to be CEOs that have been waiting to retire that are going to transition those businesses to their second generation kids or grandkids. So we think 2025 is going to be a big year filled with M&A activity here in Kansas City with all the private equity companies around town.
We have a lot of like younger kids that watch this show. I mean, we've kind of got a whole range of people, but there are a lot of students that watch this show sometimes. And that family office space is tricky to get into. So what are some tips that you've used to like make those networks and grow that type of network?
Yes. So funny enough that you mentioned it, my little brother moved to New York and he's doing investment banking, but he actually wants to move back this summer and get into private equity. And there's a lot of kids and young kids, and I myself was one of those that want to do something cool like work for a family office or work in private equity, but it really takes time to get those connections established in Kansas City. So what I've done personally is just reached out on LinkedIn just like this and met people. And if they're willing to meet with you, they're willing to help. And I would just start there. If I was a young kid, it's really about who you know in Kansas City.
Right. I think it's all about, I was thinking about this when I was watching the inauguration yesterday, and this is not political at all, but I thought there is going to be somebody that sits by Barron Trump in a class next week, right? That in 10 years gets a job because they sat next to Barron Trump. So I was thinking, well, I'm getting ready to go do my kids' college stuff, right? When we're considering colleges, TCU is one of our top ones, right? It's a very expensive school, so there's going to be a lot of good networks. And really focusing on that network, I think that networking piece of college is just as important, if not more, than that degree you walk out with.
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that one.
All right, Jonathan, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get to Kansas City?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out who I am, but for these purposes, I am a startup founder, and it's basically all I've done my entire career. I was a venture-backed CEO in San Francisco for 6 years, and I think you would describe it as a polymath, where I'm a coder, designer, leader. I love recruiting. I just basically turn things from 0 to 1 across the board on early stage companies. And I help a lot of other founders do that. So I do a lot of advising as well. I'm kind of become the data guy, where I help people figure out what's going well, what's not going well by building custom data systems for early stage founders. And then we analyze it together and figure out how to, get them unstuck. How did I get to Kansas City? I went to KU, moved here after college, and then wound up in the Bay. But then in the fall of 2019, I attended this event called Back to KC, and they flew us out and showed us how much Kansas City had changed in the 11 years that I've been gone. And, I was like, oh, that was actually cooler than I thought. And then there was a global pandemic, and I was stuck in my apartment for 100 days straight without hugging another human being. And I just was like, I got to get out of here. And so, had family here, and it was familiar. So I made I call it retiring from San Francisco, so that I could buy a house. And so now I just work from home, do a lot of the same stuff. And I have more than one thing going on, usually at a time. I am currently working on, I'm kind of fascinated by how AI and your own data can help people improve their lives. So I'm working on a few projects like being able to chat with your DNA and being able to get feedback on things like your sleep's out of control, and it'll guide you through experiments to improve your sleep quality or weight loss or things like that. So sort of like health coaching through your own information that's already being collected through trackers and smart scales and things like that. So I love just working on a bunch of things at once.
So when you came back, right now it's been 5 years, so it's even bigger now. But when you came back 5 years ago, what caught you the most surprised of change in Kansas City?
Well, I mean, it was an odd time. So, for the first year I was here, I didn't know what the bottom half of anyone's face looked like. But, there were a lot more pockets. I really only spent time in like Waldo and Johnson County, and there were a lot more like pockets of places, cool hangouts spread out all over the city. I didn't own a car in San Francisco for 7 years, so being able to walk places was kind of desirable for me. And it's more walkable than it was when I lived here in 2010.
Right. Okay. Well, welcome back. And even in those 5 years, it's grown so much, which is crazy. And you got to be here for most of our Super Bowls. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
You moved back in the right time. So,
yeah.
All right, Will, what has been the most pivotal point in your career?
Yes, ma'am. In my long tenured career of 5 years, I will say that my most pivotal moment in my career was when my girlfriend at the time and now fiance decided to move to Kansas City. That was hard because I'd been with the same company since college and only known one company since graduating. And I was really slated for this dream promotion that I was working all of those 5 years for, and working hard to get. So I consider myself a very loyal worker and plan to be at that company for a long time. I had good internal connections, good internal equity up to the senior leadership level, which was super great and awesome in that company itself. And I had a really good knowledge of our products and processes. But when I decided to move to Kansas City, I had to maybe look elsewhere, which is hard. And a lot of people my age would probably say there's a big dichotomy between staying with your company or taking different positions over each year. And I believe it's important to stay with a company. So when I decided to move to Kansas City, I had to go against what I kind of believed in and look elsewhere. And it turned out to be one of the best things that happened to me. So I'd just say, if you're out there and looking to change careers or make a switch and move somewhere, it's okay. Sometimes the grass is greener. Sometimes it's not. It really just depends. You just got to take the risk. So I just, whenever I was working in BOK, my old bank, I had interned in Kansas City, and my current boss now at Sunflower Bank recruited me over. And I thought that he was incredible. So I came to work for him, and it turned out to be an awesome opportunity at a different bank in a different role. And turns out that I got one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my career so far. So it all worked out in the end. it was scary at times. And my girlfriend and I at the time had different disagreements about where to move, when to move, and everything worked out in the end. So it was great. And it's awesome to be back in Kansas City.
Awesome. How did you come back here, or did you secure the job from Dallas?
So there was nothing available for me at my current company when I was moving back. So then I secured the job in Kansas City, and then I moved here.
Okay.
After I was wrapping up there.
So was that just this past year?
Yeah, I moved back home last February, and I started my job in Kansas City in April.
So were there a lot of Zoom interviews? Were a lot of your interviews done digitally?
Yes, they were. And that was a hard process. But I made an effort to get back to Kansas City and hopefully follow up and meet those people in person. And that's how it worked out here. And this company I work with now is actually headquartered in Dallas. So it was lucky that I could go interview there in person for a couple times
nice.
too. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Okay, Jonathan, what's been the most pivotal point in your career?
Well, I got kicked out of Y Combinator on the first day, which is, for those that don't know, kind of like the Harvard of startups. A lot of companies that you've heard of sort of went through that as their starting point. And that's a long story, but you can read the whole story. It's actually all over the internet. So just Google my name and Y Combinator. But it was getting kicked out of that and then sticking with the product that I was building called Store Envy, and doubling down in San Francisco when I was only supposed to be there for 2 or 3 months, and digging in, building a network, and then 6 months later, ultimately raising $7 million from the top VCs in Silicon Valley as a total underdog story. And so just sort of like proving that to myself, and great chapter in the autobiography. I think that was probably the most pivotal 6 months.
What's been the biggest difference between working in Kansas City versus working there?
Well, I mean, it's night and day. Something that I would like to be a part of improving. You know, there's sort of like this iron sharpening iron thing that happens in San Francisco, where you just, everyone works in that industry. So everybody's talking to each other, and you know, there's not really a work-life balance because it's like fun discussing ideas over beers or whatever. And you just get better, and you get better ideas and more information sharing. And here I haven't really found the pocket yet. And that's kind of one reason I was excited to come on here. Just the pocket of, like, you know, other startup tech nerds that want to get together and just talk shop all the time. I think I think of it like Florence, Italy, you know, during like the Renaissance, where there was just like all these artists in such a confined space, just like creating unbelievable art. And it works. That level of concentration does have a really profound effect.
What is a technology platform that you've consulted on or worked with or helped with funding or whatever? What's one that you thought was just doing, like, you were like, man, why didn't I think of this? But I'm so glad I get to work on this. So you don't have to tell us exact name if it's under an NDA or whatever, but kind of like what industry?
Well, I've actually worked on some physical products as well. I was the original CTO of a company called Mudwater that does, it's like a coffee alternative. And, you know, that is a brilliant product. Recommend it. And then I worked on another up and coming beverage company called Groovy. That's really, like, it literally wins the best non-alcoholic beer award in the world, like year after year. And it's called Groovy. Check it out. They have non-alcoholic beer and wine. So, I mean, those have been pretty cool. I couldn't come up with those.
Nice. How often do people tell you, well, I had that idea? I love when people say, I had that idea before this. Do you get told that a lot in the industry? There's
an old saying that is, ideas are cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's sort of like, well, I had the idea for flying cars.
Right.
You know, okay, but like, where is the flying car? So it's all about execution. Nice. And, you know, getting customers and delivering value and all that stuff. So ideas are the easy part.
Love it. All right, Will, What are your 2025 goals, and how can the Kansas City community help you reach those goals?
Sure. Yeah. I like to start easy. So my major goal was to meet Erin in person. So I want to meet her at some point. Just kidding. Well, not kidding. But yeah, for this year, I have 3 goals I wanted to do. So one was fitness, one's leadership community, and then one professional. So my fitness goal is actually to do the triathlon. So I'm signed up for the Shawnee Mission Triathlon in July, which I'm excited about to try for the first time.
Which part do you think you're going to excel at, and which is going to be the hardest?
I think bike will be the hardest because I don't own one right now. So we'll have to get on that. But I'm worried about that part because I've never done long distance biking. So we'll see how that goes. But got to get started somewhere.
Which one is going to be the easiest for you?
I think running. I think I've done a marathon before and a half marathon, so that part doesn't scare me as much. It's just getting doing it after swimming and biking. That's going to be hard, I think.
Hard. That'd be a little difficult. Okay, yeah. And then what about business goals?
So for business goals, mine is obviously to meet my loan goal and deposit goal at my bank. So to that, in addition, I hope I can be a people connector this year. My goal in that is to refer one high quality opportunity per quarter to some of my people that I work with in other industries. So that's a goal of mine. And another one that I could use help with from the KC community would be to join a junior board for a nonprofit organization. So just moving back, I worked with some ones that are in Kansas City, like Big Brothers Big Sisters, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So I'm looking to get reconnected with those groups. I was a Men Wear Pink ambassador last year in 2024 for the American Cancer Society, which I loved. I want to do something similar to that this year. But I'm really passionate about financial literacy for young adults and sports. So if I can find a way to combine those two, I believe that athletes of any level create the best employees and future leaders. So love to work with kids in sports and find a way to combine that with financial literacy. So if there's an organization out there that does those things, I'd love to be a part of it.
I'm going to tell you where they're all going to be. They're all going to be at the Win Lunch in 2 weeks where Caitlin Clark is speaking. So you should go to that and get there early and network.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jonathan, what are your 2025 goals and how can the Kansas City community help you get there?
Well, for one, I have a 13-year-old daughter. So, you're just sort of hanging on for dear life to some degree. No, but it's I love being a girl dad. It's really fun. But in terms of work, I intend to ship one of these sort of AI for good products. I'd love to find some other collaborators on that. That's kind of what I'm thinking about right now. So if you're watching and you're curious about AI and health and wellness, I'll let your guy know. I also run a large scale Burning Man camp. And we're always trying to make that bigger and better every year. And it's like an Art Deco hotel theme. And so there's going to be all kinds of goals in elevating that experience. It's also a karaoke lounge, but we're going to be building a rooftop terrace on top of the camp and have just an amazing. At
Burning Man?
At Burning Man, yeah.
Did you guys have a hard time at Burning Man last year? It was all over social media.
That was 2 years ago, but yeah, it was muddy for 2 days. But
does anybody tell you that you remind them of Jim Carrey a little bit?
No.
Oh, I don't know if it's just this interview, but I'm kind of getting that. Are you getting that, Will?
I see it.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm honored. He's very wise.
He's wonderful. He's
funny. He's funny.
And funny. Well, that's awesome. And Kansas City wise, how can the Kansas City community help you?
I'd love to meet other founders, do that sort of, leveling one another up and, getting breakfasts regularly. That's actually how I broke into the scene in SF. It was like every other week breakfast with other founders. And we just ended up, all kind of furthering our progress of our startup alongside each other. Build more sort of, Wild West founder energy into my community.
Cool. I like that. Jessica has a good point. This ideas of cheap execution is priceless. That was a killer quotes. So good job. Sean says Paul did come in with little comments here, says every week, and everybody needs to enjoy the warmth. And Paul also, his goal is also meeting me. That's a hard thing to do. I don't like to leave
Great
my
minds think alike, Paul.
unless I'm out of. People are always like, "You're so little," because I'm really short. That it's very fun. So maybe it'll be my goal to meet some of you guys in person too. How is the best? Real quick question, Will. What's the best way to connect with you?
I would say LinkedIn or email.
LinkedIn or email. Okay. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, all the things. I'm on the gram. I'm JON Crawford everywhere.
Okay. What is it? Say it one more time.
JON Crawford.
In Crawford.
Yep.
CRWFORD.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. So the gram is your main one, but also here on LinkedIn.
I'm on Twitter or X. I'm on LinkedIn. You know, it's an ADHD thing. I got 10 channels going at once.
I got all about it. It also keeps your teenagers off of it a little bit more, I've learned, because I've got 2 of them myself. So awesome. Well, here's the deal. You can go connect with both Will and Jonathan anywhere, it sounds like. LinkedIn for Will, anywhere for Jonathan. Jonathan, why are you John on social?
Because it's shorter.
Okay. But you go by John.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure that they're going to talk to you the right way. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on today. I know Scott's not here and I'm not as much fun, but he'll be back next week. I want to thank Bestway International and Evardy Construction for sponsoring. Thank you so much. Shout out Jessica Powell for always helping us find amazing guests. And we will be here same time, same place next week. If you guys will hang on for me just a second, we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.